Hey everyone, welcome to today's Sidetracked episode. I am Jayson along with Will Nonamaker. He is one of our regulars in the Endurance Series and the 12-Hour Series, which is really cool to have him here with us today. We are in the Team Salem workshop today with Will, so we're going to get a little background on Will and what he thinks of the series and how he got a start in racing, and introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so Will Nonamaker, our family races. It's my dad, Joe, and my brother Wayne. So we all race. We've been racing forever. My dad's first race car, if you can imagine, was a Ford Pinto.
That's awesome.
No, he never got hit from behind.
I was going to say, that was the first question I had, is did it ever catch on fire?
It did not. But back then, you were running on tires that looked like Space Savers today. I mean, they were this narrow. He was on steel rims. And one time, he actually had the whole wheel detach from the hub.
Oh my God.
The steel rim just broke off, attached to the car still. So,
oh my God.
You want to talk about from the beginning days of showroom stock racing in the 70s to where the world is now racing, it's much different.
Yeah, definitely. Safety and engineering of all the cars, everything has changed so much over the years. On your side of it, have you always been local to this area?
In Ohio, yes.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Lima, Ohio. That's I was referring to Uno earlier because that's a great place where we've gotten a lot of our mechanics for our race team. But we came up here to Canton, Ohio in the late 80s because we owned Subway restaurants. So we were first ones to open a Subway in Canton, Ohio. And
wow.
In the whole area. So like there was no Subways up here at all. Somebody had to be the first. And so that's why we came up from Lima to Canton. But yeah, my family's always been Ohio. Like I said,
there's a lot of race teams in Ohio, I'm finding. There's a lot of different... some of them have popped up in the last few years and that, but then there's some, like your guys' team's been around for a while. So it's one of those things where there's some really good racing talent. So people that watch this that maybe they enjoy racing, but they enjoy the mechanical side of it. So a good maintenance tech or a good, kid that wrenches on his own car at home. There's opportunities locally to get onto and experience, race teams at this kind of level. You were telling me about your mechanic who went to Uno down there, and he was a mechanic at one of the other go-kart tracks, right?
So.
Yeah. So and then that translates into this side of it. It's pretty cool, kind of seeing that aspect of it. But it's Ohio, Canton, Ohio. It's Football Hall of Fame and, that kind of stuff. But to me, Northeast Ohio, between Northeast Ohio and Mooresville, Northeast Ohio is like this little kind of pool of racers. It's really cool.
A lot here. I mean, you got us, you got McCann's, you have Kreider Racing, and then down in Columbus, you have several teams, including Michael Shank Racing, Meyer Shank Racing, which are in IndyCar and sports cars. You got Thor Sport, I think, up in Sandusky. So, again, any kid who wants to get in and make a career out of auto mechanics, I definitely recommend they look at Uno and Lima because it's a great baseline, and they have an entire motorsports program there. And like my son, he's going to Akron right now for engineering, and they have a great program there.
Yeah.
So I always just recommend you do that. Reach out to teams that always, weekend warriors. We have a lot of weekend warriors with our team, so do that.
Yeah, that'd be a great way into it, because I've had people ask me, how do you get into it? And, my family has been in and around NASCAR and that kind of series forever, since my grandpa, basically, and my aunt was in it for a while as, behind the scenes stuff. And it's really cool because you don't realize how many different positions there are on a race team. There's everything from the books that need to be done, and then all the way through the people turning wrenches to the driver. And it's almost as important, I'd say it's more important than the driver itself sometimes, to have your good mechanics from there. And Akron's a great place for it. We got Goodyear right up the street, so they got their test track and everything. So it's a really cool area for that, I find.
And that's what's been great for our team is we've had guys come from here, and like Jay Chapman, he's the head of Goodyear's road racing.
Yeah.
So he came from our team. He was our team manager. We've got a lot of other crewmen who went on. We had a gentleman who's from here, and now he's with Penske, running their sports car team. So again, Matt Meadows, I had to think of his name. But so we've got a lot of people who've used this as a chance to get to the next level. Yeah,
and it's always cool to start, somewhere, like you said, go-karts is a easy start for a lot of people. It's the most affordable racing I've ever been a part of, at least, where it's someone else's equipment and I get to go out and race it. So when did you get into it? So your dad started back then. How did you get involved with racing?
So my brother and I always crewed for our dad, so as we went along, we crewed. And when we got old enough to start driving, we jumped in the cars and just, whatever it was. I mean, our first cars were not really great cars, little Volkswagen Golfs, but it didn't matter. You got to get out there. I always say to people, I'm not going to do it until I get it perfect. Well, you may wait forever on that. So what you have to do is just get out there and do it, even if it's not perfect, but you're at least experiencing it.
Yeah, it's good to get started. I know the last episode we did, we were doing it during a junior race at K1 Speed in Canton, and being where where the stream is the home base of the stream, it was really cool to see, kids and their parents come out, cheer them on and stuff like that, and get started at that young of an age. And I even said it on the stream. I'm like, man, I'm really jealous because I wish I would have started when I was that young, just to develop the basics in that. But what was the first event that you've ever done?
So when I was still in college, I had a Volkswagen Golf. We went and bought an old used Volkswagen Golf, and we were doing SCCA, Sports Car Club of America, and they had driver schools, a lot of them back then. And so I just went to Nelson Ledge, it was just up the road here, and did a driver's school there. And then 2 weeks later, I was at Indianapolis at the Raceway Park there doing my second driver's school. So
awesome.
That's just kind of how I got going. Like I said, the car was far from competitive, but it didn't matter. I had to get track time. That's what mattered more than anything.
Yeah.
So that when I stepped up to the professional ranks, I had reps.
Awesome. So did your dad race alongside with you at this time? Or
So my dad's you can imagine he's not a spring chicken anymore.
Right.
He's been racing ever since then, but he's still driving to this day. He drives these Porsche Boxers that we've got behind us. These are Tire Rack ChampCar Endurance Series cars. So he still gets in those. He drives with my brother, Wayne, and then I drive with our teammate, Joe Salin, who's out of Buffalo, New York. That's
really cool. So what's one of your favorite races you've done so far?
At K1 or ever?
Let's go with both. So K1 and ever.
I think at K1, one of my favorite ones was last season, and it was just when we'd started, and that was really neat to be a part of the endurance series when we were starting, right? I mean, it's great now, but I love being a part of something as it evolves. And I think if you remember the one race, it was about 5 of us, and you were there, and Rachel was there, and you'd run out of power, and then we were under full course caution, and then Rachel and I, we had 1 lap sprint, right? And she did a great job of just getting away from me in 1 lap. But to me, that was really cool, not only because I got to finish second, but because I got to be a part of the beginning of this. And that's what I love. I love being a part of this series from the beginning and helping it grow. And like I said, anything we can do to help the series grow, that's what we want to do.
That is awesome to hear. Yeah. Okay. So your favorite race overall then?
Well, I mean, there's always those bucket list tracks, right? And
absolutely.
Races. And when I was a senior in high school, I hadn't started racing yet. And I said to my dad, for my senior graduation, I want to go to the Daytona 24 Hours. I want to do it.
Okay.
And we got a hotel room and everything. And did we use that on Saturday night? No. We slept in the rental car. My poor dad, here's this grown man stuffing himself into a Dodge Omni because I wanted to not leave the track. That was my dream. And so many, many, many years later then, we got the opportunity then as our team evolved to race in that 24 hours. We got to run.
Oh, that's so cool.
Both in the GTs, which was awesome. And then I got to race in the prototypes, which was awesome. So that's
so
obviously
cool.
a dream come true. I didn't ever win it, but there's a lot of people didn't win it. I was a part of that. I mean, mega.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And what's great about getting a pro race is I know exactly where I stacked up, right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've raced at many levels of the pro racing, and I got to be against very good gentlemen and pro drivers, and then I got to go against the best of the best, like gentlemen such as Simon Pagenaud, an IndyCar champion, Dane Cameron, prototype champion. I've got to drive against them. Was I as fast as them? No. Was I miles off of him? No. I know where I stacked. And that's a nice thing. You can go to bed at night saying, I know where I stacked up against the best of the best, and now I know why they're the best.
Yeah. And then I know in the series that you've run before, you can actually rent race cars too, right?
It is. It's a lot like what we experienced at K1, where you can rent. Of course, you may not always get equal carts, whereas K1 is very equal. Yeah. But it's great because you can rent. And that's nice as people get up through the ranks. You don't have to own your own team. It's not easy to own your own car. Even if you're not in a shop like this, it's just a garage at home. It's still a lot of work. Whereas, when you look at these sportsman endurance racing, you can rent a ride with somebody else and split the weekend. And it's fantastic. And you get to race at some amazing tracks like Daytona, Mid-Ohio, Watkins Glen. Sebring.
Awesome. So then you race at K1 speed a lot. I've seen you at different series, stuff like that. What is your kind of takeaway from arrive and drive racing and even the leagues at K1 translating into like your actual racing?
What I like about it, and the same thing when I go do the endurance karting series or I try to do iRacing. I know that unless I'm really ingrained into those series, it's going to be hard to know the exact last little nuances, right? I mean, there's nuances at K1. There's nuances on iRacing. I mean, but getting repetition into your brain is still the same thing. So what I'm trying to focus on when I'm at K1, which is why I like the endurance series, is I get out there for 60 laps are we having? because they're 26-second laps, right? So I'm getting 60 laps, and it's forcing my brain not to get distracted because, you know, when you get out there we're out there for 2 hours in these cars at a time.
Right.
It's amazing. People don't realize this, that you get in a car, and if you don't have the brain power to focus, you start thinking about the laundry. You start thinking about, you know, what am I having for dinner, right? And that's what's really good about, and I'm looking forward to the 12 hours again this year because it's really going to force my mind, after it's really tired, to be able to stay focused. And sometimes, you may ever notice me when I come around the carousel and coming on the front straightaway, my head may shake because I'll tell myself, dummy, that was a bad lap. Focus. Focus. It's not about charging hard. It's not like what the movies say. We're like, put your foot down harder, right? It's about hitting your marks every turn. And so I'll be yelling at myself saying, get back and focus, focus, focus. And that's what this does for you. And anybody, you know, whether you've done it a lot like I have, or, you know, we've got some young kids who are even, you know, just teenagers. Hopefully what they're getting out of this is the ability to get focus. So
it's really cool to hear that even on a pro level, people are, you know, same way with that. So it's really neat.
And traffic does the same thing. You know, you can hit your marks for maybe 10 laps straight if you had no one around you. But if someone, either you're passing someone or somebody passed you, can you, as soon as they go by you or you get by them, get right back into the zone? Because that's a hard thing. I just bang, 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 and now I got to get right back to hitting my marks. And that translates from K1 to, again, endurance sports car racing. That's something that translates no matter what. And we experience that a lot here because when we run these Porsches, like when we go to Daytona, there's going to be 125 cars in the track.
Wow.
And you can imagine that's not that big of a track. We just came from Sebring with 100 cars. So you can imagine there's not much daylight.
Wow. Yeah. And so you're almost always in traffic at that point, and then you do get 5 minutes of breathing room to yourself, and you have to, like you said, you have to get right back onto your marks, because when you're, it's a video that I did, and it's driving public in K1 speed has taught me a lot of different stuff, you know, and I love arrive and drive racing because you have no idea what these public people are going to do. They don't know a line, they don't know the basics of the racing, so they might come into a braking zone and slam on the brakes, or apex and slam on the brakes. And it's like at that point, you know, you have to dive out of the way instead of just rear end them, and it just teaches you like really good reflexes on that. But I can't imagine 100 cars at Sebring. That would be crazy. So
it is.
So it's nonstop. So you guys are going to run the 12 hours, right?
We're going to run the 12 hours, and last year, whether we were stupid or whatever, it was just Wayne and I. And I can tell you, by the end of that race, our hands were raw red.
I remember.
I went and bought Dr. Scholl's heel pads, and that's what I did. I taped them to my hands because it was basically the best way to get a cushion. But I probably, you know, we had the endurance race set on Sunday, and I thought I was going to do that. Let me tell you, I was still recovering Saturday and Sunday. So this year we brought in another driver, Ian Giebler. He hasn't raced really so much at K1, but there's another track nearby that he's done a lot of. So I think it'll be a good addition. He used to work with us here too, so we know him really well. So Ian's very good at IT. So what we're hoping is, one of the things we lacked last year was really doing the research. You know, there's a lot of research going into this race, like any race. And like, I don't just go to this race and roll my car out. I know my fuel mileage. I know everything about this car before it ever hits the track. And I'm not sure we quite figured out the program. You guys had a really great program, but I'm not sure we figured it out to the T.
The battery telemetry.
And I think we probably gave up on a couple of karts too early, but we didn't know. So hopefully this year we can do it. I mean, we finished 4th last year. I think we were like 30 seconds or 20 seconds down.
You guys were so close.
But hey, this year I'm not even expecting a 3rd. We've got 8 or whatever cars in this race. If we finish in the top half, I'm going to consider that a victory. Like you said, we've got guys and gals coming from all over the country, let alone the people who are experts at this track already.
It's going to be a really, really close race. So I'm glad to hear that. If you can have someone that's focused on the race and someone that's focused on, you know, the batteries and everything like that, that's basically a winning team, I think. So it'll be really cool to watch you guys. I was rooting for you. I'm the race director, isn't allowed to pick favorites at all, and I don't, but truly seeing a team of 2 out there was incredible. So I know we have you guys as a team of 3 this year, and then the Felbers, FLBR Motorsports, is going to have Cash and Roman, and then Marshall as well. So they'll be the second team of 3 that I know of. So it'll be really, really cool to watch. But I mean, you were running top 3 for most of the race.
We were.
And then bad pit stop. And I think it was a bad pit stop, or was it a drive-through penalty?
So over the whole 12 hours, we had 2 penalties. So I don't think that was terrible. It wasn't great. So those 2 penalties probably lost us 3rd place. But again, the team that won, I think that was Katie and her dad, the Minerva group. But hey, again, kudos to them. So
Yeah.
not only were we the only ones doing 2, but our average age was older than anybody by a long shot.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Our average age out there, folks, was 47. So we were 47 years old out there.
Yeah, and it was so cool. We come in, and I've been to a lot of races and that, so I walk in early, and everyone's, the teams that were so excited about it were already there set up.
Yeah.
And I saw your dad in the chair with the headset on, and I'm like, I feel like I'm at an actual race right now. I love it. So it's really cool. But what are you guys thinking on doing for team communication? Because I saw a pit board, but you guys also had radios. So are you looking for like a race box type thing, or are you going more like pit board communication?
You'd think since we pro racing, we do radios, we'd stick with that. But I don't know. And just these kartings, like, even when we did endurance karting over there at Pitt, the radios only work so well. I just found the boards work about as good as anything. I know that sounds kind of old. Like, you'd think we would be the ones wanting to do the radios, but I just feel like on this track, because it's hard to even grab your button. You're so busy out there that I just found the boards work the best. But I do like your idea of having a communication with the teams, and what you're talking about with sending communication via a channel. That's great, because even in like ChampCar and American Endurance Racing, not only can you say the penalty, but the team can then send back a message to the tech director. And I think that's really intelligent, because it keeps that I can get a message to somebody without being antagonistic. But you get very emotional. So let's just
very much so.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. No, it's all understandable. If you're investing 12 hours of your life and you're at hour 10 and you get a penalty, that's enough to make you blow up. Like, you're right.
Yep, it is. I fully expected it. I knew I was doing a good job when every team had a bone to pick with me at some point in the race. That means that I'm calling it across the board the same way.
Yeah.
If one team doesn't walk up to me, then it's like, okay, either they're having the cleanest race of their life and they have no problems with anything, or it's favoritism or whatever. But if you call it the same across the race and let the racing happen on track, of course the team is going to get heated about a call, about whatever it is, but you try to call it as fair as you can, and as much as we can alleviate that by even like the pit lane limiter speed automatically happening, going back to speed automatically. Well, since I have you, what do you see in it? What would you like to see out of the series, out of the 12 hours, out of K1?
Well, again, I like the fact that we're on the pioneering stages of this. And I think the one thing, if I can say, it's not so much a change that needs to happen, but I just think everybody continues to need to understand, even though they're spending some money on this, they need to have patience with it. I mean, there's sometimes, I know we've had a couple, like the last time we raced, we literally didn't even get green because we were stop and go, and there's guys and gals kind of maybe throwing their hands up. And I just thinking, I wanted to say, hey, everybody, just calm down. We're trying to pull something off here that's not being done by any other K1s in the country. So if there's anything I would just say is just everybody just have a little bit of patience with the series and just accept that we're getting to do something. Even if you don't finish third and you're finished fourth, who cares? You're getting to do something no one else in the country is getting to do.
Yeah, it's to our knowledge, no one else in the world has attempted a race like this. Right. Indoor electric 12-hour race. We've seen a couple other 4-hour races, 2-hour races, but 12 hours logistically, I'm glad you bring it up, is a nightmare. We try to get it as close as we possibly can. Like the ending of last year's 12 hours, I mean, you couldn't have scripted something better than that.
Amazing.
It was so great.
Like I said, you guys are trying stuff there that no one else is trying anywhere in the world. And like I said, everybody just has a little patience with it, because, sometimes you don't know how good you have it until it's gone. And so we could be anywhere else in the country and not getting this experience. I mean, you got guys coming from Alaska, Chicago, California, right? So they all appreciate it. Let's just go into this race and just not get too wound up. That's easier said than done, though.
Absolutely. Was there anything else?
No, like I said, I think what you guys are doing is amazing here, and I'm just, like I said, happy and fun to be a part of it, and we'll just keep trying to go out there and stay up with everybody.
Awesome. Well, Will, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure we'll clip in some stuff from around the shop, and we'll have some fun, but I can't wait to see you guys on track, and it's good luck in the 12 hours this year. It's going to be a good race, so
it will be.
Yeah, everybody stay tuned for that. So I'm Jayson from Competition Karting, here again with Will Nonamaker, and I hope everyone enjoyed this. Will, I got to ask you one last question, because I did this to Rachel in our first one. Who would you like to hear from next? I've always asked the driver of, okay, so who's a personality you want to get to know, or who's someone you compete against that you don't really know a lot about them that you'd like to know?
I think you already mentioned it. I really would love to see the sit down with PJ and Katie at the same time, because they're father and daughter, right?
It's a great idea.
I would love to see them both together. Like, I would want to see the interaction of the two of them getting interviewed at the same time.
Okay. Perfect. I think we'll do that next. So thanks, Will, for your time. I really appreciate it. And you guys like, follow, subscribe. I hate saying it, but please do it. It really helps the stream, especially if you want to see more content like this. We can do a lot of cool behind-the-scenes stuff with some of the drivers in the series and just what we do for the series. It really helps out. So thank you guys so much, and this has been Sidetracked. I'll see you guys soon.